In this video, I am going to be talking about self-sexualization and if it's wrong for women to objectify themselves, because I play a part in that as well. So a few days ago, I was having a conversation with someone about men's addiction with, I'm going to say corn, but I'm pretty much sure you get my drift. So I was having a conversation with this person about men's addiction with corn and sex being overused in like social media, on TV, billboards, blah, 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 blah. And is that a bad thing necessarily? Then I had to ask myself, am I a part of that problem as well? Because I do post a lot of pole videos on my Instagram. So I do be showing some cheeks. But I had to ask myself, am I a part of the problem in my little space of social media that contributes to the whole bigger space of social media? Am I filling that machine with more problems or no? Because I feel like I don't. And I'm going to explain why. As far as men have an addiction with corn, yes, that is a problem. However, when it comes to sex being used in ads and stuff like that, it's at a point where sex sells and sex is going to be around no matter what. And you would just have to be disciplined on where you put your focus at, basically. Do I see me self-sexualizing myself? I guess, because that's what I put out. It is sensual, and I will be pretty ignorant and naive to say that I don't do that. But I wouldn't consider me self objectifying. um in other words, I don't see me as just an object. I do see me tapping into a sacred side of sensuality and femininity. From a woman's standpoint, I do have an understanding of why being tapping into that sensuality is important to womanhood. I mean, that's not all to womanhood, but I'm pretty much sure you get my drift with this too. It is important for a woman to have a self-confidence in her sensuality. It's such a powerful currency of energy, and it is a life force. And I mean, when it comes to women, we are the portal to life. So having that confidence in her sensuality and being able to explore in that, I mean, I don't see why women shouldn't be able to do that. But there is a difference. There is a difference between women exploring her sensuality and being confident in it, and just plain old not having an awareness or control of it, because it is such a powerful sword. Let me try to explain this a little bit better. When a woman doesn't have like an awareness of her sensuality and she never explored it, she basically doesn't know herself as a woman in sensuality. um she can easily get manipulated by others who do see her. They know her power, and she doesn't. So that type of woman can easily get manipulated by others, um into doing certain things that might be traumatic later on when she comes to realize everything. Another thing too, since it is energy, they don't know how to harness that within. So they rather, not that they rather, but they look for that type of validation, um, from that energy, from getting validation from men, basically. Um, that's why a lot of women, they like getting attention from men, because that's where they're getting that energy from, rather than finding that energy within. So you have a lot of that going on. And two, another thing too, my bad. Three, another thing too is that they end up competing with other women because they see power in other women's sexuality and they want to compete with that, so they can end up being the baddest bitch in the room instead of finding that within themselves. So, what helped me in my journey of womanhood and finding my sensuality and all that stuff and being confident, um, I have self control, I have an awareness, I know who I am, I know my morals, I know my limits, I know what I'm capable of doing, and I know how I look to the outside world. And it's up to me whether or not should I give a fuck, you know. Um, for instance, when it comes to getting validation from men, I do not care for the most part. I mean, I was always the type that liked to be behind the scenes anyway, but coming into my sensuality, my womanhood, I really do not care so much of getting men's validation because first of all, I had to stop and ask myself, um, what do I get out of that? See, that's another thing. Like, what do I get out of this energy of men checking me out and I'm like getting validation and stuff like that? I really don't. I mean, I guess it's nice, right? But it's not like I'm going to date them. It's not like I'm going to interact with them. Like I can't date all these men. I could only be with one, so there's nothing I'm really getting out of men's validation. I'm already secure within myself. Um, so there's that. Like the energy is directed back to myself. I'm not looking for outside source for feeling confident, if that makes sense. Another thing too that helped me is not caring because people do ask me like, don't you want respect and blah 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 blah. Um, why do I need respect from random people? Um, mm, yeah, basically, why do I why do I need respect from random people? They don't know me. There's nothing I have to offer them, and there's nothing that they can offer me. So therefore, I feel like I'm not hmm what's the word I'm looking for? Um I'm not downgrading myself in any way. I can help how people view me, especially if they're just seeing me on social media. Like they don't know me outside of that. Another thing that helped me with this is that I show value in other aspects of my life. Like there's other layers to me besides my sensuality and me posting pole videos. Um, I do not show that side everywhere I go. Like for instance, with my tribe down in North Carolina, like none of them don't even know that side of me. Um, and other things that I do, like when it comes to being involved in like certain things, I don't show that side. There are other aspects to me besides being sensual. So I find when you have other values of yourself, other layers of yourself, and you know who you are, you don't feel like you're just a sexual being because you're more than that. And when it comes to men, they don't need to see those other sides of me. Like don't I don't know why I would want to go out my way to try to prove myself that I'm more than just a sexual being. I don't care. And it's so surprising every time when I come across people who meet me from outside of social media. They don't even know my Instagram or anything. And I develop like this relationship with them and this respect. And then when they see some of my posts that I do for like the first time, they're surprised, but they're not like, they don't look at me in any other way. Like my value doesn't like drop low. And that's because I showed other aspects to myself besides just being super sensual. Like I said earlier, it is a discipline, and you can be disciplined to put your focus on other things besides seeing women all down your timeline. I mean, since it is social media, And when it comes to the algorithm, you can set up your algorithm to where you can see certain things. Like for me, I love architect stuff. Like my first dream job was to be an architect since I was a little girl. Besides that, that's mainly what I see down my timeline. And between architect, uh, decor designs, and basically it. And then little things here and there. But that's what I fill my timeline with. And if you really have a hard time seeing women self-sexualizing themselves, you can easily manipulate your algorithm to see what you want to see, like whether it's science or gaming or I don't know, whatever you're into. Another thing that I want to touch base on when it comes to women's sensuality, I do know the difference between being tasteful and tasteless. And this is another thing when women don't really explore their sensuality, they don't really see how they're coming off. They don't really see how they look. And sometimes there's women who come off very tasteless. It would be ignorant for me to say that hoes don't exist. They do. I know that there are women out there who try to hide their wholeness under being sacred and being super spiritual and sensual and their spirituality. You can feel that energy. You know when a woman is being very genuine in her sensuality versus a hoe. I'm not gonna sit up here and act like it's just that and there's nothing bad about being sensuality. There is chaos in sensuality. It's just up to the woman and how she uses it. She wants to be a hoe, that's on her. Um, and then you have women who tastefully just explore in that realm. I don't know if I'm making sense, but if I'm making sense, then that's great. Another thing too, diving into this, and learning how to have control of it, you do have to be prepared for criticism if you're a woman trying to explore her sensuality. Like with me posting what I post, I am aware of how I look on the outside world. Like I get guys all the time jumping into my DMs asking me if I do private sessions and they will pay me, but I ignore all those DMs. And I never really got a guy say anything rude to me, really. I haven't gotten that as of yet. But even if I did, like, I don't care. I don't care. I don't know him. He doesn't know me. And I don't need to prove myself that I'm more than just what he's seeing on my Instagram. Like, you're only seeing one aspect of my life. That's not everything that is to me. But yeah, that's all due to being disciplined with myself and having a awareness and seeing how the world is and not being naive to things. And I think if you develop that key, unlocking that key to having discipline and self control, then it'll be easier to navigate this womanhood and sensuality. And you won't feel so bad when people think, oh, you're self sexualizing yourself or self objectifying, blah, 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 blah. Discipline, control, awareness, and an understanding. If you haven't mastered any of those, this will be a chaotic path to be on. But once you have an understanding and you master all of those, then it'll be easier to navigate this path of womanhood and sensuality.